We're so close to 28,000 subscribers, Who Dat Nation. We need less than 70 subscribers to reach our next milestone. So help me out, Saints fans. Lock us in for free daily videos around your New Orleans Saints. News, rumors, multiple live shows a week, multiple videos a day, and the most fun and interactive and informative content on your New Orleans Saints. Hope you got your mug ready, because here is what's on tap today, Saints fans. ESPN recently put out an article discussing what they believe, what they think around Taliese Fuaga, the Saints' first-round draft pick this past NFL draft. And then we're going to dive into the possibilities of a Brandon Aiyuk trade, and I'm going to give you my argument as to why I believe Chris Olave can be a top 10 wide receiver in 2024. But here's what Katherine Terrell of ESPN said on Taliese Fuaga, saying he was quickly moved into the starting lineup as the left tackle with the first team. Saints offensive coordinator Klint Kubiak said that Fuaga has done everything to give him an opportunity to get playing time, and that his aptitude has stood out in the early days of the offseason. Fuaga and 2022 first-round pick Trevor Penning have leaned on each other, as Fuaga played right tackle in college and Penning was a left tackle before switching to the right side this year. Now, Taliese Fuaga was very, very effective for the Oregon State Beavers in 2023, and the PFF numbers, they back that up. So, the run blocking grade was absolutely stellar, a 90.9 run blocking grade. His pass blocking grade was also exceptional, but I also really like his zone blocking grade specifically, because that is what the New Orleans Saints are going to be running, a wide zone scheme. So I think that it's really nice to see that he's successful in that area. And on top of that, his overall grade was an 88.2, and then 0 sacks on the day, big old goose egg right there, or on the season, I should say. But he did have 8 penalties for the Beavers. Now, offensive coordinator Klint Kubiak has been raving about Taliese Fuaga and the seamless transition from the right to the left side, and he's very, very excited to see what Fuaga is capable of once they can get it going with some contact. It all changes when the pads go on, but he's made of the right stuff, so I'm not worried about him. Now, like I said, I think it's really interesting to note that Taliese Fuaga did run a wide zone scheme in college. And during the pre-draft process, I was very, very high on either Olu Fashanu or Taliese Fuaga. I wanted nothing to do with J.C. Latham. I knew that the Saints were not going to be in the market for a Joe Alt. But one of those two players in Olu Fashanu or Taliese Fuaga, I think would have been the best fit for the New Orleans Saints. And to be quite honest, I think New Orleans got the best fit in Taliese Fuaga. And it is worth noting, over the 2022 and 2023 season with the Oregon State Beavers, Taliese Fuaga logged 519 snaps in zone run in just 180 in man/gap schemes, which is really, really interesting. And even his gap grade was pretty solid at a 78.9. So even when he did have to log some snaps as in the, gap in the man scheme, if you will, he still put up some pretty good production and still was able to hold up and defend his quarterback. So I want your thoughts on the New Orleans Saints offensive line. Is the 2024 compared to the 2023 line? Is it better? Is it worse? Or do you think it's just kind of the same, just with different kind of players? I'm curious as to what you guys have to say. I personally believe it's a better unit, and I think that it's a more well-rounded unit, and I think that this offensive scheme will better suit the offensive play or the offensive line and the talent that they have there in New Orleans. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section as well. And really quick, got to give a big-time shout-out to today's presenting sponsor. That is Chubby Shorts. And this past weekend, I was out celebrating Father's Day with my family and some friends, and I had to rep the Chubby Shorts. I was wake surfing, absolutely shredding it up on the water. And then, of course, me and my girl looking absolutely great. I'm rocking some Chubby Shorts. I looked awesome. And hey, I'll tell you what, my girlfriend, you can see it right there, couldn't keep her hands off me. Now, Chubby Shorts, it's the best thing in the world for the summertime because, hey, the skies are out, so that means your thighs should be out too. Crack open a cold one and make any day feel like a Saturday when you use our code CHAT. That's code CHAT to get 20% off when you visit chubbyshorts.com. Chubby's makes clothes that make every moment feel like a vacation. Some people wear tuxedo t-shirts to show that they like to party, but personally, I rock Chubby shorts, swimsuits, and shirts by the pool, at the bar, or when I'm kicking it back with some homies or just trying to have a good day on the lake. I've been rocking a dad bod since high school, and Chubby shorts have kept me looking fresh and feeling confident the entire way through. I'm talking high school, I'm talking junior high, and I'm even including my frat star days when I was at the University of Arkansas, Woo Pig Suey. They have the most comfortable shorts, swimsuits, pants, polos, and they even got button-down shirts that'll have grandma praising how well you clean up and your girlfriend wanting to get down. It's always the weekend when you're rocking Chubby shorts, and for a limited time, they're giving our viewers at Saints Now by Chat Sports 20% off your order with our code CHAT. That's code CHAT at chubbyshorts.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you. Don't blend in with the crowd. Stand out with Chubbies. So coming up next, let's discuss whether or not New Orleans should trade for Brandon Aiyuk, because I think this is a really interesting idea to discuss. And recently we've seen some new updates in terms of why a trade could actually go down. I did put a short out on the channel yesterday, and if you would have been subscribed and you had your notifications on, you would have seen it. But hey, I'll also say this. If you followed me on social media, you would have known that we would have been talking about this, and you would have seen this absolutely sick jersey swap that my girlfriend made. So if you're interested in trading for Brandon Aiyuk, just get in the comment section and type trade for me. And if you aren't really that interested, just give me a pass, because I'm really curious as to what you guys think about this idea. Now, here's what the latest is on the 49ers wide receiver. Jeremy Fowler said that Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers have had some contract talks stall a little bit. And there isn't a lot of optimism that a deal is going to get done anytime soon. And if you think about what the Niners have done recently, they've had to pay George Kittle, they've had to pay Deebo Samuel, they've had to pay Nick Bosa, they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. And on top of that, Brandon Aiyuk recently took to Tik Tok. There's a clip kind of going all over the place of him talking to LSU, or former LSU quarterback and current Commanders quarterback, Jaden Daniels, saying they don't want me and stuff. So Aiyuk, it is reported that his asking price is a lot higher than what San Francisco is currently willing to give him. And here's kind of some context as to where you could expect Aiyuk wanting to be paid at. I think he could go anywhere trying to shoot for $32 to $31 million. I think he's going to try and surpass Tyreek Hill, but it will be tough to pay Brandon Aiyuk more than A.J. Brown. Like, that's a lot of money, but Brandon Aiyuk is a quality wide receiver and a really good football player, and I think that he deserves a lot of money, but it's going to be more than Devontae Adams. I think it's going to be tied, if not more, than what Tyreek Hill and Amon-Ra St. Brown are making, so I think it's going to be somewhere around that $31 million number. And it's no mystery as to why Brandon Aiyuk wants to be paid like a wide receiver who's a top-tier player, because he is a top-tier player. He is one of the top wide receivers in the league, and every year we've seen him get even better. And I know that the numbers aren't going to sit here and jump off screen and be like, holy shit, this guy is one of the top players in the league. But let me tell you about the development. I mean, in 2022, this guy only had 748 yards and 5 touchdowns. And now fast forward to a few years later, over 1,300 yards, almost 18 yards per catch and 7 touchdowns. That is absolutely incredible. And I think that he would be a really, really nice fit in New Orleans, playing with Derek Carr, playing under Klint Kubiak once again. And I think that it would be an interesting idea to at least kick the tires on. Now, the big question, it's the money. What are we going to do? How are you going to pay him? You are stupid. The Saints have no money. The Saints have only lost players in the last few years. This is a real tweet that somebody came at me with when I talked about this. Is the Saints have only lost players in the last few years. They haven't signed anybody. This is a product of, terrible cap space. Well, okay, first of all, whether you like him or not, Saints signed Derek Carr in free agency last year. They also signed Tyrann Mathieu a couple years ago. They also signed Jarvis Landry a few years ago. He's not with the team anymore, but they also signed Chase Young this past year. They've paid Demario Davis. They extended Tyrann Mathieu. They brought players in. Like, to say that they haven't done anything is just asinine to me. But here's what the cap space is currently for New Orleans. Right now in 2024, you have just over $12 million after restructuring Taysom Hill's deal. 2025, $88.15 million over the cap. But in 2026, you're actually back under the cap with $22.72 million. That is all as of right now. That's pre-Alvin Kamara stuff. That's pre-signing anybody. That's pre all of the last-second moves that'll come in before training camp. So I understand where the argument is of the Saints can't pay Brandon Aiyuk, but let's also not act like the salary cap isn't a myth, and let's also not act like the Saints don't have one of the smartest front offices in terms of how to manipulate the salary cap and make every penny stretch to every single dollar. So really quick reminder, if you guys want to get more coverage on the New Orleans Saints, again, we're trying to get to 28,000 subscribers ASAP, and with your help, we can do that. But I'm also posting on social media about the New Orleans Saints all day, every single day. So go give me a follow on X, formerly known as Twitter, or on Instagram. The links to both of these pages are in the comment section and description of this video. And if you give me a follow and you DM me Brandon Aiyuk, I'll give you a follow back because I know that you came from this video. So let's kind of just set some context here. In terms of bringing Brandon Aiyuk to the Saints, where does he fit in on this depth chart? Because Chris Olave, this is the first year that we're going to see him be a true wide receiver one and go into the offseason training as the wide receiver one. A.T. Perry, I think, has incredible talent and a really nice receiving ability, and I think that he's going to have a very fun year two. Rashid Shaheed, not a hot take, is the most electric player in the National Football League when he has the ball in his hands. And obviously, the Saints, they waived Kyle Sheets, RIP to the Slippery Rock legend, but the reality of everything is, I don't know if you have room for Brandon Aiyuk, especially considering Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are going to need to get paid soon. Now, they can't extend Chris Olave. They can't pay these guys until after this season, but it's no mystery that Chris Olave is going to command a lot of money, and he's a really good player, and I think he should command a lot of money because with this new Saints offense, we're going to get to see these two players' usage just be completely changed. It's going to be catered towards them. It's going to be the offense going to work around them or work with them, not around them. And I think that when you look at the production for both of these two players in their first couple of seasons with the New Orleans Saints and in the league, I mean, it's hard to disagree that Chris Olave could be one of the top wide receivers in the league. It's hard to disagree that Chris Olave could command top 10 money in the league. And to be honest, I think Rashid Shaheed also deserves, I'm not going to say top 10 money, but he deserves good money. Like, he is a very nice player for the Saints, and he's finding a really nice role as a return specialist. He's a Pro Bowler in that regard. He also is one of the most incredible players when he has the ball. He is one of the fastest players in the league. He is so extremely exciting to watch. Both of these players are. And so if you want to go and trade for Brandon Aiyuk, that's totally fine. But I don't think you're going to be able to pay Brandon Aiyuk, Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed. So somewhere, something's going to have to give. And I do expect Chris Olave to continue to take steps and continue to grow in his development. Because Olave said, I'm just trying to take that next step forward and trying to go from a good player to an elite player. So just trying to be consistent every day and put in the work to be able to be one of the top receivers in the game. And I do firmly believe that Chris Olave has the skill set to become a top 10 wide receiver. I also think that he has the offensive coordinator and the play caller to become a top 10 wide receiver in the league. It's going to come down to quarterback play. It's going to come down to health, and it's going to come down to the overall execution for the offense entirely. So just to kind of play with the idea and just kind of tease the thought, what would a trade cost? Because maybe the Saints could pull this off. And to be honest, I was sitting over here like, man, this is going to really break the bank. This is really going to set the team back a few years if they try and pull this off. But after talking to my guy, Chase Sr., I actually think it might be relatively easy to do. Brandon Aiyuk for Trevor Penning and a second-round pick, why not? The 49ers need offensive line help. They're not very confident in Mike McGlinchey. You could move off of Trevor Penning. There you go. And you give away a second-round pick. You still got your first round next year. But what about the idea of Brandon Aiyuk for 2 second-round picks? You just said next year's and the following second-round picks. And maybe just another just off-the-top idea. What about Brandon Aiyuk for just next year's first-round pick? Like, all three of those, I think, are a solid trade ideas. And realistically, after some time, I think we could all convince ourselves if any of those three trades went down, it would be a good move for the New Orleans Saints. Now, my final thoughts, I do not think this is going to happen. As much as I would love to see it happen, it's just not going to. It would be a lot of fun to go and pursue him. It would be a lot of fun to make the trade happen. And to be honest, if Brandon Aiyuk was a New Orleans Saint, dare I say the best wide receiver group in the NFL? I mean, between A.T. Perry, Brandon Aiyuk, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave. Like, come on. I mean, that's an unbelievable group. But it's just not likely. It's not realistic. And I think because of what Chris Olave is capable of, the Saints are better off just rolling with what they got, paying Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed in after this upcoming season and making things work in the long term. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's video. We'll be live tomorrow afternoon, so be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.